Hi friends, welcome to my first video of Self-Worth Codes webinar. And this webinar series pairs beautifully with my book, Mining Your Self-Worth, A Loop for Self-Discovery. And it's also just creating more accessibility for you as you go through the work of self-discovery, of self-inquiry, of getting to know yourself in relationship to yourself, to your nervous system, to the relationships that are in your life, your relationships to people, places, things, energy. And so that's why I created this webinar series, because I recognize it's nice to have additional help from the book. Also, if you're working with a therapist or a coach, or you're just sort of embarking on this on your own, all information is good information. So that's essentially why I've created this webinar series is for you, and going sort of as deep as you can, as you want to, and knowing that since this is a video, you can pause and reflect and come back at any time, which case I hope that you do. Let's do a drop-in. So whatever you need to do, maybe get a quick glass of water or rearrange yourself, just so that you can sit comfortably for the next 30 minutes and take in this information. So I thought we could start with the grounding exercise. Keep your eyes open, your eyes closed. Maybe you prefer to sit or even lay down. But take a moment to soften, to check in with your breath, to feel your body, to allow your breath to expand a little bit more. Notice what you're feeling, not because you need to change it or that anything has to be done, but just to connect. If you're sitting, noticing your spine, your rear end, your toes, feeling the weight of your body, the connection to the earth, to the chair, to the ground in which you are currently on. Breathe. And take a minute to look inside your chest. What's it feel like in there? If you can notice your heart rate. Notice any areas that potentially feel tight. Notice the areas that already feel expansive. And as you start to listen in a little bit more closely into your chest, to your heart, are there any messages your body would like to share with you right now? As you drop in now to your belly, to your abdomen. Notice again the spaciousness, your ability to connect. And be curious about what you find there. Noticing too the rise and fall of your belly as you breathe. Again, with this awareness that there's nothing to change, there's nothing to fix. How can you just be aware? And does your belly have any messages for you? Now maybe span out. Begin to scan the rest of your body. From your belly down through your hips, your legs, your feet. And now back up to your belly, your chest, your heart, your lungs. Down your arms. And back up towards your shoulders. Your throat, your cheeks, your eyes, your brow, and the very top of your head. Your whole body in this space. Breathe. Knowing that your breath is a gift. It's your ability to connect with yourself in any given moment. Your power, your grace, and your responsibility. Take 2 or 3 more breaths, and then as you feel ready, bring yourself back. Thank you. Thank you for taking that moment to soften with me. I want to share with you the lenses in which I work with. I'm a somatic psychotherapist, and that means that I take traditional talk therapy, and I also include your body in that conversation. I consider not only what my clients are going through in any given moment, but also the history of them. Their mother and father, their caretakers, their grandparents, their family of origin, to get a more holistic view of their experience and their lenses, your lens, on your life and the world around you. Considering also your society, your culture, in which you were raised. I work from a codependency perspective as well, knowing that we're all codependent, right? We need each other. And when that need thwarts the sovereignty of who you are as an individual, how that can be problematic, how that can move into trauma responses. And most of those things are typically patterns developed through the family system and can be strengthened through the society in which we live in, affecting how we show up in relationships, again, to ourselves, but also to other people, places, and things. I work from positive regard. I believe that we all have the medicine within us that we are seeking. And I believe in your ability to get that for yourself, to find that, to uncover it. And when I work with clients one-on-one, I hold space for them to discover it. I also consider parts work. I'm looking at my notes. We're multidimensional beings. We have many parts showing up at any given time. And that's how sometimes you can feel conflicted. Something feels good, but it also feels bad. Or you have responses, you're like, I don't know where that came from. These are your parts showing up for you. Typically to protect yourself, to survive the environment in which you are currently in. And sometimes those parts are really helpful. And other times they can get stuck in patterns and in loops. For instance, let's say one of your things is you're a people pleaser. And when we start to dig, we start to recognize that's a trauma response, a fawn, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And we come to find out that one of your parents was an alcoholic, and you learned that by people pleasing them, by pleasing them, by giving them what they wanted, they'd be nicer to you. That they wouldn't, or at least you thought, they wouldn't drink as much. If I could keep, for instance, mom happy and less anxious, then I'll take on that responsibility and she won't drink as much and she'll be present for me. Right? This is a story that potentially your 7-year-old self-developed to survive your environment, to maintain closeness with your mother. And that part is still in play. Now for you, again, for example, in your 40-year-old body, and you're still noticing that you're people pleasing in order to stay connected to others. But now it's not really working anymore. And so how do we change that part? First, we have to let it know that it's safe. And so we'll get more into that. But this is how parts work shows up. Now into the book. Minding Your Self-Worth, A Lube for Self-Discovery. In the beginning, I talk about patterns and stories and how these are developed. And they're usually, again, developed through your family of origin. I'm going to read from my list here to stay organized for you. But our family of origin can determine our worth for us based on stories from what they learned from older generations, and how they determine your worth is birthing order, beauty, body type, physical abilities, cognitive abilities, emotional labor, gender, sexuality, and the ability to be shaped by the family narrative. Society also has a big part. And society looks at social status, financial status, educational status, career, beauty standards, race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, sexual preferences, cognitive ability, political affiliations, and religious affiliations. So you'll notice that some of these parts, some of these stories, some of these ways that we categorize are overlapping. And so when it's overlapping, it typically can be strengthened, right? Because not only does my family feel this way about me, but I notice that society also views me in these ways. And so the story within ourselves becomes compounded. And then we start to look for evidence. And the evidence is reflected back to us again through society. I want to bring back to you this idea of safety. And it's pretty complex. Because on one hand, we can consider, and I've heard even clients tell me this, of I was safe in my family of origin. Nobody ever hit me. I had enough food on the table. And these are like the big, wide brush strokes of safety. And I'm also wondering about the more nuanced ways. For instance, were you able to show up as you were at any given moment within your family system, within your society, without feeling shamed or like you had to change or contort yourself so that everyone else would stay happy, so that you would be loved and appreciated? And so too, from that list, some of those things are malleable and some of these things aren't. For instance, beauty standard. That's pretty malleable. Cognitive ability. Sometimes you can work with that. But I think about the ability to be shaped by the family narrative. We think about the favorite child, the golden child, the black sheep, the child that disappeared into the background, right? And these are all narratives that don't necessarily have to define you, but they do within the family system. So they can be harder. So then we have this idea of ourselves of being the black sheep, and then we go out into the world and we recreating scenarios, not always cognitively, but it's almost like a part of us is constantly looking for proof to strengthen that story within us. So for instance, I was the black sheep. I was also an only child, so a lot was dumped on me, but I was the black sheep, right? And so I learned to either fight or fade away into the background. And then as an adult, I would continue to find ways to hide, to fly right underneath the radar so that no one could ever really see me. But what was I doing? I was protecting myself from being criticized. That was what was acceptable to my own nervous system. I'm thinking about two over and under activated states, energetics of how these things impact, these stories impact your nervous system and what you feel like you're allowed to have. Oftentimes in over or under activation states, we look for things outside of us, right, to help us feel whole again. And that's when the conversation of addiction comes in. And fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna run away, I stand still, or I'm gonna give you lots of compliments and people please you so that you love me. There's also this idea of, I just want to be loved. I just want to be a part of. And again, it's not always very cognizant, but we look for the power dynamics of like, what did our caretakers want? What did our older siblings want? Who was in control of the family narrative? And how did we relate to them? How did they relate to us? And we began to think that how they related to us is kind of who we are. And it's not. It never was. You're a whole, again, sovereign being. So whether your household was safe or not safe, I'm not here to say, but start to consider in your moments of solitude or of contemplation of your family and societal programming, was I allowed to show up? Did I fit into the family system? Do I resonate with the stories that were given to me? And I think about splitting too, showing one face to the family, to the school, to the friends, and then having these secret worlds of our own, where we really got to act out what it is that we secretly wanted, who we thought we really were. So this idea of splitting the personalities, and we're talking about now about compartmentalizing. And all of these parts that we compartmentalize are still alive within us. And they get activated throughout our day, with our family, with our friends, with our work. And oftentimes, depression and anxiety can come in as like a don't look there. That's too scary. Because potentially it was scary at 5, 7, 10, 12, before you had the tools. And so we learned how to split parts of ourselves off. But what about now? Are you able to pause, to slow down, to feel into what is actually in alignment for you? And then maybe the anxiety starts to bubble up. Don't look there, don't look there. What's underneath all of that? What is the anxiety trying to protect us from actually feeling? That's when nervous system regulation starts to come in. Again, how can I pause? How can I breathe? How can I rub my hands together? Wiggle my toes. What are the colors I see in the room around me? How can I swallow? Tapping is another good one. I am safe. I am safe. What is mine is mine. What is theirs is theirs. And as you begin to, or as you deepen into this work, it's like you're creating a much larger window of tolerance for yourself. So you're able to, little by little, it's not typically a fast process, to hear the voices that keep you from doing the deeper work, or feel the body sensations that keep you from doing the deeper work, and let them know that they're safe now. It's okay. I'm actually not in the same dynamic, or I'm in just a safe place right here, right now, in this moment, and it's okay to feel. And I'm gaining new tools, more tools, to be able to handle this, so that I can ask those questions and really feel into the alignment with how I'm living my life, how I'm viewing myself. Emotions is a big part of this, and feeling into your body. And oftentimes I meet people, clients, that don't have a relationship with their body, that learn to cut it off. And if you consider how we're first developed as babies, we're developed from the bottom up, meaning we don't come out with fully formed prefrontal cortexes, right? That's not until like early 20s. I'm not coming out doing mathematical equations or handling complex interrelational issues. We're screaming, we're crying, we're laughing, we're just feeling in the moment. And little by little, in order to be in society, those parts are you learn to regulate them, which on one hand is super necessary, right? Like, Let's not put that down. But also some of those parts of you are made to be put away, perhaps inappropriately, through shame, for instance, is a really common one. And so we learn to turn away from those parts of ourselves that are feeling, that our body is telling us, right? Like the intuition, the gut brain. I'm getting intuitive hits. No, don't look at that. I need to have real clear cut sort of solutions or things to look at. I need to know that other people understand me. Some people might not understand you, but that doesn't mean that your intuition isn't valid. And so allowing more parts of your truth, of your body, of your feelings to come up and to know again that that's safe. And this is the part of you that is the sovereign being. This is your medicine. This is also your magic. I was told I was so sensitive as a child. I'm too sensitive. So then I learned to be shy. Again, not maybe potentially in a cognitive way. You didn't sit down at 8 years old and say, well, everyone thinks I'm too sensitive, so maybe if I just become shy and quiet, I'll be okay. This was developed. Again, either directly or even indirectly, right? Because not everybody came to us potentially and said, you're too much, you're too whatever, fill in the blank. Sometimes it was just perceived from what we took in our environment. So the unspoken. I also want you to consider, like, what did your family value? And how did that shape who you are? What you would show to the world and what you didn't show to the world. And in the book, there's a multitude of questions to go through. Again, you can use the book or not. But follow your curiosity and know that as you begin to open this up, you might have a lot of memories that start coming to you. And so how can you write them down? How can you be with them? How can you give them enough space so that you don't continue to just compartmentalize them? Regulate your nervous system. Get in a safe place. Allow the parts of yourself to know, once again, that you're safe and that this is okay. This is okay to look at. And you may notice certain parts. Say, no, don't look there. Don't do that. What's the point anyway? Well, the point is for your own self-discovery, and potentially there might be change. But is it okay just to know yourself? A tool that helps me is when I'm going through sort of old sticky memories is also to remember that I already lived through them, that it's okay to look at them now, and that it doesn't have to define who I am, but they are experiences that I had, that my body had. And you may notice a pattern come in or a spiral. And can you notice it without following it or falling into it even? What is an anchor that keeps you here, there, right here, right now? And that you don't necessarily have to, just because you have the awareness, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to create action around it either. It's like, if I start to feel into this and I become sad, does that mean I have to cut my family off? No, it doesn't. You get to determine that as you want. So I want you to consider what feels good to you as you move through this work, to again use as an anchor, to use as a tool to bring you back, because this work can be challenging, it can be sticky, and you are a multifaceted creature. You don't have to stay in the work all the time. In fact, I don't recommend that you do. Take care of yourself, Get in nature, drink lots of water, get good rest, eat good food. Find the people that really care about you, that don't need anything from you, but that just want to support you and love you. Good work today. I'll see you next video.